I have never covered the quartering before, and that feels really weird to think about. That this is somebody who is so prolific for anti-SJWs, and yet I have not touched him on this channel. Now, granted, I can understand there's at least some benefit to not touching Jeremy, but let's go ahead and dive right into the actual issue at hand here. The issue at hand is that BioWare is going to be making a Legendary Edition of Mass Effect, the trilogy. Previously, getting the trilogy has been kind of awkward for a lot of people. If you're a Nintendo fan, you can really only get Mass Effect 3. It's on the Wii U. If you're on PC, you've got to bounce between Steam and the Epic. I believe it's the Epic Store. No, it's BioWare's thing, EA's thing. Not that I remember what the hell that thing is. I forget what their particular storefront is because they made it and then nobody cared. But if you want Mass Effect on PC, you have to go there. And on consoles, you end up having to either get old editions of the game or what have you that may or may not work on more recent hardware. So it makes sense that a Legendary Edition would be created. EA's Origins, thank you very much, Chris. I had forgotten what EA's thing was. But it's a good thing that we are getting a Legendary Edition of the game. But the quartering, Jeremy, has some opinions on exactly how they are going to go about doing that. So, let's go ahead and jump right into that.
Hi everyone, Jeremy here from The Quartering, and I've got a little story out of BioWare here with the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Look, I have come to expect that just about any time you're going to get a remake of a legendary game or a legendary character, if there is a good-looking woman in it, it's going to get updated.
No, not necessarily. You see, there are plenty of games that get updated versions of themselves and have good-looking women in them and don't have any issues at all. The issue with Mass Effect was that the developers, on revisiting their stuff, went, you know, maybe the camera angles being focused on a character's ass every single time was not the best thing we could have done. We could have probably done better than that. And they're basically giving people the option to tilt that camera up, from what I understand. That's not that big a deal. Like, you can still have sex in Mass Effect. You're still able to do all the lewd stuff you want. It's just camera angles where the story is concerned that are getting changed. That doesn't seem like that big an issue to me.
I'm sorry, updated. We saw this very clearly with Tifa on Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is an excellent game, but why?
Okay, so what he's talking about here is that in the Final Fantasy VII Remake, Tifa had her breasts reduced. The size of her breast was smaller. Now, as somebody who likes big boobs, I mean, just if it's not obvious, okay? But I can see where he's coming from, except he is not coming from anywhere effective. So when Tifa had her reduction in Final Fantasy VII Remake, it's actually in line with the redesign of her character from ages ago. So if we look up Tifa from Final Fantasy VII, this is how she looked in concept art. And then, when you look at her character model, the breasts were absolutely ginormous, even compared to the original design. They're almost inflated bags. And this is the thing that people apparently cared a lot about Tifa. But if you look at her actual in-game model, it drops down in size too. The actual breast size is lowered in-game. This is a thing that happened in the original game. And just to go ahead and point it out here, this redesign, this woke redesign with the breast reduction that he's so angry about, this is a thing that was done in Advent Children ages ago. because this is more in line with the original design for Tifa, the original artist's idea for Tifa. Because the original artists have influence on what the in-game models look like, but they are not the original people who get to sit there and dictate everything. So when he sits here and says, this happened in Final Fantasy as well, it's a good game, but the boobies weren't big anymore. This is what he's talking about. A character who got this breast reduction in previous games in the Final Fantasy series. We had this model in Kingdom Hearts 2. We had this model in Crisis Core. And this model is being used in the Final Fantasy VII Remake, just like it was used in the Advent Children movie. Jeremy has to actively ignore, much like what happens with No Bullshit, he has to actively ignore the history of the series that he is arguing about in order to have his position. And his position is basically, she got a breast reduction and it makes me angry. And I don't get it. I don't get it at all. As somebody who, when I become a fan of something, I become a big fan of it. I end up jumping into the lore. I end up looking at the history of development. I end up doing a lot of stuff. Seeing somebody who is also a fan of these things not do that and then critique it, it strikes a bad chord with me. I'm not going to lie.
You know, you had an ethics department making her... She's still a beautiful woman.
Wait,
but why even waste time on that?
Did an ethics
an
ethics department? Did an ethics department call for a breast size reduction, or is that just not in line with the original artist's idea? The original artist had her breasts smaller. The size of Tifa's breasts is in line now with the original artist's depictions. I'm not sure if you actually did any research here. In fact, actually, I'm 100% certain that he didn't do any research here. Ethics, my cartoon boobies aren't big enough. The ethics department must have gotten involved. The SJWs, they're taking over.
BioWare now editing some of those spicy cutscenes from Mass Effect out. BioWare has...
Editing the spicy scenes out? No. They're literally just changing the camera angle slightly so that they don't just focus on ass. Ass is still going to be in those scenes. It's just not going to be the most prominent thing. You can still see all the booty you want, Jeremy. Jesus Christ.
Has confirmed that Mass Effect Legacy will feature edits to some of its more spicy cutscenes.
Sexualized cutscenes. Not spicy. Sexualized. That's the word here. If Commander Shepard is talking with an alien woman, and the conversation is about the fact that the Reapers are going to be coming to annihilate them all, and the camera is just planted directly at a character's ass the whole time, does that not read as not really understanding the gravity of the situation, not really understanding the gravity of what's going on in the story? There's nothing wrong with trying to change a scene so that it fits better cinematically. You'll still have all the porn you want on the internet, Jeremy.
Particularly those involving Cerebus officer Miranda Lawson. Announced on February 2nd, Mass Effect Legendary Edition is set to feature not only the 3 games that make up the original Mass Effect trilogy, but over 40 DLC from all 3 games, enhanced performance, visuals, graphics, and available in HDR.
Okay.
Now, these are all great things. It offers players an option to replay the game with, upgraded visuals and maybe some game-breaking bugs removed. It also allows somebody who is new to pick up everything at an affordable price and enjoy the entire trilogy. I'm a big fan of this.
Yeah, we agree. But
for Mass Effect 1, quote, we took the rough edges off it and tried to reduce the delta between 1 and 2, because 2 and 3 had a very similar look and feel. 1 tended to feel very dated. So we spent more time trying to bring it closer to 2. Well, just continued. Quote, there were some underlying systems that made it more like an RPG and less like a shooter. But
none of this has to do with what we're worried about here, but
There were other systems, like camera movement, aiming, and things that we had improved over the course of the trilogy. Bringing them into Mass Effect 1 was a no-brainer, and we tried to just smooth out the overall experience, Walters added. Quote, reducing the friction from gameplay, but not the inherently or fundamentally changing how you progress through the game is how you invest the squad's talents and class systems and things like that. That was important. These are all very, very good. In turning their attention into providing players with a, quote, better overall experience, Walters further explained that the team gave special attention to improving the game's handling of the female version of Commander Shepard, whose character lacked customization features and reused many of the male-centric animations from her male counterpart. Specifically for female Shepard, I think there was a lot of things we could do across the trilogy to make that better. So she's a bit more on par with the male Shepard, said Walters. Whether it'll be just subtle face and shape changes or some wrinkles or support to whatever, she's kept in the light and some kind of quality level. And then specifically around the animations, we couldn't really change a lot of those, but there were times when you could change the camera to not focus on one of those animations, he continued. So male Shepard animation would have him sitting with his legs wide open in a low camera, where if you're wearing a skirt, it would be a bit unflattering. So we can't necessarily change that animation, but you can raise the camera up slightly to reduce the problem.
Okay, why is that in quotes? So, okay, look. I'm a straight dude, okay? I love titties. I like sexualized characters. But if I am playing a game and I am getting distracted by the sexualized aspects of it, and I'm no longer watching or playing because I'm invested in the story, I should have the ability to change that. If I, like, for instance, I love High School of the Dead. I love High School of the Dead as an anime. But when I go back and watch it now, it is very distracting. Because that anime has so much hypersexualization in it, and so much of it makes no sense. Like breasts jiggling around a sniper bullet as it's about to dome a zombie. Like, that stuff is, it doesn't make any sense to me. It wasn't as distracting when I watched it when I was younger, but when I watch it now, that stuff sticks out like a sore thumb, and it almost ruins the experience for me. And I am still incredibly attracted to women. So I would like the ability to watch that anime in a way that is not so focused on the sexiness of its characters. I would like to. It would make that anime experience more appealing to me. And I would still have the original anime at any point if I really needed to see the super sexualized version of it. It would be there. Just like with Mass Effect. If you desperately need that panty shot, the original's there. But it gets better than this. This is actually a perfect solution, Jeremy. If you want that panty shot, if you love that panty shot of Commander Shepard, then you get to keep it, because you can choose to angle the camera up or not. You can keep the camera there. Like, you can keep the camera exactly where it is. And you can keep staring at those panties, if that's what you want. None of that is being taken away from you. You're just being given the option. What's wrong with being given the option, Jeremy? I thought options were good.
I'm not really... Look, this isn't why I play video games, but I'd like to know why that's a problem. Additionally, during...
It's not that it's a problem in general, it's that for some people it's a problem. If I'm watching a space opera, I don't care so much about panty shots during an important scene. Like, and if I have the option to not deal with that and focus on parts of the scene that I care about more, that's even better. Like, do you guys remember the camera system in cutscenes in Metal Gear Solid where you could switch between different cameras and see the scene from different angles? That's perfect. I would love to see more of that. But apparently those options are bad for Jeremy. Jeremy hates that stuff. Being given the option in your video game of what you want to see, that's horrible.
During the, quote, hands-off presentation detailing the changes coming to the remaster of the sci-fi trilogy attended by Polygon, BioWare environment and character director Kevin Meek revealed that the red-headed default FemShop, who was first introduced as a playable...
FemShep. It's Commander Shepard. Female Shepard. FemShep, not FemShop. Jesus fuck.
Character Mass Effect 3 would be available to play as throughout the entire saga. Sadly, though somewhat unsurprisingly, the original 3 games in the trilogy will not be released unaltered, as Walters reveals that the team had to make edits to some of the game's more well-rounded cutscenes. When pressed on the claims levied that the developer had certain characters and designs such as all-female or EDI's robot body were made specifically to pander to a male audience, Walters noted that, I do think a lot of things have evolved since the original games. I don't know if I would say we were ultra concerned about it or anything like that, but there were considerations.
Well, yeah, because, so, for those who don't know, during the Xbox 360 era, hyper-realistic graphics had not really happened yet. Compare a PlayStation 2 game to a PlayStation 3 game. Compare an Xbox game, for the most part, to an Xbox 360 game. That evolution was massive. Mass Effect was also a new IP at the time. So the idea that you could have sexualized characters in it, and even have sex with the characters in it, was used as a selling point to market that game, because it was a new IP, and they needed that marketing. The game does not need that anymore, because the game has developed a history of being one of the greatest sci-fi epics in video game history. It doesn't need sexualized marketing to carry itself anymore. But there was once a time where that was used as part of the marketing campaigns. Not necessarily that they said, oh, you can have sex and that's why you should play this game, but a lot of the word-of-mouth marketing that came from that game, from somebody who was in high school when this was happening, people going, oh my god, you can have sex in this game, it's so amazing. That is the kind of stuff that sold that game to prepubescent teens when I was that age. It doesn't need that now. It doesn't need it to stand out now. It's already a legendary series. Of course, Jeremy is gonna not worry about any of this stuff. He needs to complain that he can't coom harder in the game. But still.
According to Walters, quote, Kevin actually called out some camera cuts that were just, why was it so focused on Miranda's butt? So, in some cases, we said, alright, we'll make a change here, he recalled, but ultimately the change as an entire character model or something like that wasn't really, it was a decision that was a part of many creative decisions to show it as best as possible fidelity, and going forward the choice of the art that we had had. Right. So, that's what you spent time on.
Okay, no, Jeremy, no, this is not a good argument. This is a dumb fucking argument. So, when you say, oh, you spent time on this, but you couldn't have spent time on something else. Do you actually know how a video game cutscene is made? Specifically in Mass Effect, cutscenes are made within the game engine. What does this mean? This means that instead of having a pre-rendered cutscene, which means that you render the cutscene and then you take a recording of it, like you're recording in real life. In Mass Effect, most cutscenes are not pre-rendered. Most cutscenes happen using the in-game engine. This means that when you go to a cutscene, there's a set of parameters that happen. Where the parameter 1 will say camera angle here, parameter 2 will say lighting here, parameter 3 will say character walks here. And it creates the scene as you go. This is one of the reasons why you encounter a lot of glitches in some of these cutscenes, because they're being rendered in real time. When you render things in real time, would you like to know how much time it takes to change the camera angle? You go into the code, you call the object that has the code that tells you the parameters for that camera, and camera angle 75 might be the ass shot. Changing it to camera angle 78 would tilt the camera up a handful of degrees, showing more of the area and less of the ass. That's it. One parameter. That's all that's needed. Because the cutscenes are rendered in real time. The engine renders them in real time. It takes no time to go to the code and say, okay, tilt the camera up. That's not a lot of development time. It's not. But apparently Jeremy, in Jeremy's world, where he doesn't understand basic shit about game design, but he wants to critique game design, he can complain that they didn't spend enough time on booty when it doesn't take any time at all to change a camera angle in a real-time rendered scene. When you pre-render a scene, you have to do all of that, and then you have to render it on the end of the studio and build the scene and record it, and sometimes that can take several days, depending on the equipment you're using for the rendering process. When you're using the in-game engine, this is not the case. Using an in-game engine lets you do these things in real time super quickly, and I don't mean to sit here and harp on this particular point, but as somebody who loves game design and wishes that I had actually had the opportunity to get into it, and loves studying stuff like this, knowing this makes Jeremy's take rub me the wrong way. It's like when we covered that guy who got upset about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and didn't know anything about animating on particular frames, but he had a whole lot of opinions about the animation. This reads the exact same way to me.
Unfortunately, despite these improvements, the changes being made to Mass Effect, Walt just concluded in his interview with Metro by revealing that the third game's controversial ending would remain unchanged. Now, that's the bigger problem.
So, wait a minute, hold on. A camera angle that requires one parameter change, which takes a handful of microseconds. They should have spent those microseconds on the game ending. Something that would have required a huge endeavor to change. And then you would functionally have a different game. This is a remaster of a game. No, it's not a remake, it's a remaster. If you want a remake of the games, then yes, changing the ending is perfectly acceptable. A remaster is different, Jeremy. A remake is like when you take the original Resident Evil on the PlayStation 1, or the original Metal Gear Solid on the PlayStation 1, and then you have the Resident Evil remake, or Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes on the GameCube. Those are remakes. They redo the entire game with the idea to bring it up to modern standards. That's not what this is. This is a quality of life enhancement on top of a remaster. A remaster is like Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, or Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, the remasters of those that came out on the PlayStation 3 and onward. Those are remasters where you have the opportunity to update the visuals, add some more systems into the game, add some quality of life enhancements, but ultimately you have the same game. Jeremy, if you want a different ending, I agree with you. Multicolored explosions was stupid. But if you really want a different ending, then maybe you should be pushing for a remake and not a remaster or a re-release. This is a remaster, Jeremy. Remasters don't do this. Remasters don't change the endings. Remakes change the endings. You're making up shit to get angry at. You desperately need content, so you are making up garbage.
Quote, sure, you know the controversy around the ending, he admitted, and we understand, I certainly understand how it didn't hit with some people, a lot of people. But I didn't think you suddenly go in and try to change anything in that regards. Why not? I mean, you're changing a lot of other things. I mean, I suppose that's a lot more work.
It is a lot more
now,
work,
is it
Jeremy?
the end of the world?
It is a lot more work, Jeremy. It's the difference between a handful of microseconds to change a camera angle and literally updating the lore. Just... Heather says, I think for situations like this, Sarah should bounce more so the current recording to watch. Yeah, Jeremy, look, do you need... Is this what you need? Is this what you need? Like, this? Is this the thing that you need in your video game so desperately? Okay, cool. It's on the internet. There you go. Be happy. Fucking Christ.
No. I think, to me, it's not really relevant. I don't know that
Wait, what?
I was super duper interested in rebuying this game anyway. You can see here, why must everything, this via Sophia Narwitz, why must everything these days be first viewed through the lens of spiciness? As someone who is actually gay, I gotta...
Why can't you say sexuality? Are you worried about being demonetized because you said the word sexuality? Is the sex word bad for you?
Say this stuff is annoying. Pointing to an article from The Verge, Mass Effect Legendary Edition won't add new content or more gay romances. What? Why?
Well, let's see here. Because there are people who, in a video game where they can romance anyone, would like the option to romance, well, literally anyone there. If you were playing as Femme Shepherd, your ability to romance was limited a little more. If you're going to... While I understand that because this is a remaster, not a remake, they weren't going to add a whole lot more stuff, and yes, The Verge's article is kind of stupid because, again, this is not a remaster, or not a remake, this is a remaster. For you to sit here and go, this is stupid, why would they add more gay romances? You know which part of your audience you're pandering to right now, Jeremy. You know.
What is even the point of this? And then you see Game Rant. One thing Mass Effect Legendary Edition should change, but won't. Mass Effect Legendary Edition releases in a few months, but the remaster decided not to correct past mistakes when it comes to same team romance. Why? Why?
Do you have an argument besides why?
I mean, is this all these weirdos think of?
Give me an argument besides... Wait, Jeremy! Wait! Buddy! Do not... I'm gonna jump into 2 Quay. I'm gonna jump to 2 Quay right now. Do not be the person that is upset that people want the ability to romance more characters in their role-playing game when you yourself are upset that you don't get to see booty. The same arguments get to be made against you, Jeremy. Why are weirdos like you so focused on fucking animated butt? But then, why are these weirdos so focused on gay sex? I desperately need my anime asshole. Like, dude. You threw a stone from a glass house, and it was fucking hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that all these people want to do is write about SJW culture war stuff. But they end up having...
Wait. Speaking of stones from glass houses, Jeremy, you're telling me that the person who made, 100 videos on Brie Larson basically talks ad nauseum about the culture war. And you're sitting here going, all these people talk about is the culture war. All these people talk about it. It's too much. Like, dude. I don't understand, Jeremy. You're upset about these things that you yourself are doing. And I just do not get it. I do not get it, Jeremy. Do you need booty so much that you are willing to abandon your life-term goal of peeing in your basement so that you can call other people out for wanting same-sex relationships and then call other people out for all the shit you do? Okay. Cool. That's as far as I'm getting in that. I cannot tolerate any more of that. He's literally being an he's literally being an SJW right now. He's the anti-SJW being an SJW. Just blah. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of my content, please go ahead and check the sidebar. You'll find more of that. Hit the like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, share with your friends if you want to. Do me a huge favor and check the description, and you will be able to see any of my other stuff that you can do to support my channel and what I do, if that's a thing that you do want to do. And as always, everyone, please insert in the video tagline here.